Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of In Our Humble Opinion, happily
Hello.
known
Namaste.
as IO.
Hi. Namaste. Hello. Hello. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
And these are the crazy people I work with, and we're always happy to see each other, at least
Definitely.
this once a week.
Yes. Yes.
But today, guys, we're going to be talking about depression, suicide, and suicide prevention. We have a guest, and we'll be inviting her on the show soon. Her name is Jenny Teo, and she's one of the founders of the Please Stay movement. And she will be talking to us about her son's suicide and her life ever since. Now, this episode might be a little bit hard to sit through, but it is important, so please bear with us. Somewhere last week, a Japanese actress and star of the Netflix reality series Terrace House, and also Japanese wrestler, a celebrity in Japan, Hana Kimura, she took her own life. And she took her own life because she was cyberbullied. And she received every day hundreds of comments telling her to get out of the show. You cannot have a show anymore, right? All because of of her behavior that's been perceived by viewers and the things she said on the set of a show. So sadly, the world has lost Hana Kimura. This whole thing about cyberbullying, whether it's online or whether it's bullying outside of the online sphere, people are still bullying, don't you think?
Yes.
And I am particularly very, very upset. And you know how I hate darn bullies. I hate them. And this person, Hana Kimura, she could have been saved. So, from all of us at IO and Happy TV Singapore, we'd like to wish or bid her a farewell, and may she rest in peace.
Yes. Yes.
Daisy, do you have anything to say about this?
Well, I just want to say that as a mother, I see this whole cyberbullying, broken up into three main groups. Of course, they are the bullies, and then you have the victims. But then you also have the bystanders. I mean, I think about it and I say in our days, what was the meaning of bully? So in school, there would be a bully, somebody comes in, catches another kid, there's a physical bullying, there's a beating up, everybody's hauled down to the principal's office, parents are called in, and everybody is reprimanded, end of bullying. Today, it's cyberbullying. This cyberbullying means anonymity. Anonymity means you can
Cowards.
be mean and you can be vicious and
Cowards.
all under the cover. But there's also something really important to understand, especially because you're talking about Hannah. Because she was there in a reality show. And a genre like reality, I mean, being a producer myself, I understand that a genre like reality is actually created. The producers go through great lengths to create hate, to create likes and dislikes, to create conflicts, which is the reason the ratings go high. These are the bystanders. These are the people who are pushing them on with the higher ratings and saying, we don't want this and we want that, right? And in fact, my daughter when I was mentioning this topic to my daughter, she spoke to me about another show called Unreal, where that show is about producers, the showrunners who run these kind of reality shows. And the lengths they have to go in to create these moments, which they call drama, which come through hate and anger and frustration. So then my question is, this subject, this reality genre, when these young actresses go on to these genres, they're willing, I don't think they are prepared for this onslaught. Now, my question is, are all these bystanders, the ones who were bystanders, the ones who were there, maybe silently also being a part of this whole cyberbullying. How is that going to work out? It's
You
no
know, I
more.
think that Daisy, I think that reality shows have always had a bad reputation in some ways. I think that the people who what you say is absolutely correct. They seek to have conflict and they
Yes,
want to have that.
yes.
But I think on the larger issue of suicide and that there are people who are not on reality shows who are cyberbullied.
Oh, true.
Yeah,
This is
definitely.
because we were talking about Hannah. I'm
Sure,
saying,
sure, sure.
that is that
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
cyberbullying,
yeah, yeah.
which,
I'm just bringing up so that, for the general audience,
oh, yeah, yeah.
they know basically. And there are people who are watching us right now who could have been cyberbullied or who are cyberbullying. And, if you talk about cyberbullying, it's a very, very big term. And a lot of the internet is very toxic, especially on social media, especially in the forums and the comments. People feel that they can just lash out at celebrities or people they don't know, or even people that they know. I think that for those people who are being cyberbullied, my advice really is just tune them out because they're not people who for the most part. They are strangers. They're not people in your lives. They're not people who even care about you. So try and tune them out. I think that's very important.
How about this
Certainly,
show? How
No,
about this show?
no,
How about this show? We have a show.
yeah.
I don't know whether people will view our show as a reality show or not.
No, but
no,
We
it's
can
not
be
a reality
bullied too,
show. It's a
can't we?
talk show.
yeah, we
Yeah,
can.
but can we be bullied as well? Because Gilbert, I remember you were saying that you do fear doxing as well. Correct?
No, I don't really fear doxing. I have been doxed before, so I can now already before. I think that the point basically is that, especially for young people who are very, very influenced by what they see online,
Yes, yes.
especially on social media, on Instagram, and all of that, they get attacked a lot. My advice to them basically is to tune it out because these people that are talking about you and saying horrible things about you are not people that and that they really shouldn't matter in your lives. Of course, I know that's easier said than done.
Yeah.
But I think that that's an important thing to state out there.
Brother, let
Can
me
I
just say
can I
something to
share
both
with
you
you?
and
Yeah.
to both Daisy. Hang on a second.
Sorry, yeah,
To both you and Daisy. Okay, this show we've got going is a good thing. This show we've been doing good things. And if anybody were to say anything untowards, ridiculous, angry comments, okay, that would hurt. We will put it out here right now. No, we're not going to be hurt by
But
you, Clara.
but
It's
you
simple
see,
as that.
Chris,
Yep.
let me just tell you, we are talking about three adults here. Right now, we
Yep.
were talking about the youth. We were
Yes.
talking about that age,
Yes.
that
They're very impressionable.
innocent age. That yes.
And
Now that's
approval is very
yes,
important for
yes.
them.
Now,
Sure.
I would like to take this opportunity, if I may, to talk about a friend. I mean, I met her at an event, and she shared with me about her daughter, Victoria, who committed suicide. And this was in Singapore. But I happened to actually find all this out because it was connected to a book that she had written after the suicide called Loss Adjustment, about how a parent adjusts or gets into terms with the suicide of her daughter, who actually committed suicide because, once again, cyberbullying. Now, this opens up a whole different can of worms because what was the school doing? As a parent, were you aware, not aware? How do you get aware? What are these telltale signs that one has to look for? And as whose responsibility is this? Let me just say, if the teachers turn around and say, it's not my job, it's the job of the parents. The parents turn around and say, I don't know how to handle this. Oh no, it's the job of the teachers. The child is saying, you know what? I'm too scared to talk about it to anybody. Then how's this going to ever get solved? How are we going to move ahead? I mean, that's where we're talking about this very, very delicate age where you feel you're being watched all the time. cyber, this body shaming and mean words and you're fat and you're thin and
yeah. So, there is a very important distinction to be made, I think, between being bullied by your schoolmates online or in person, because these are people who are in your life. They are people that you see every day. They are people who you need to interact with.
yes.
That is something that really is serious. And that is something that we need to control much more. It's a bit different, I think, from the kind of general cyberbullying that you see online when it's anonymous people you don't know saying that, you should kill yourself, you're stupid or whatever it is. Those are the kinds that I would urge young people, if they're listening to this, to just tune those out. But if they're your friends or they're your schoolmates, then yes, that is a serious issue. Not to say that the other kind of cyberbullying is not a serious issue, but that is something that we all need to do something about, okay? So in terms of school cyberbullying, definitely teachers and the administration need to monitor and to be aware of this, as well as parents. I think that it has to fall on all the adult responsibility, on the adults to be responsible and to look for ways that they can protect the young and the vulnerable.
But Gilbert, oh my God, easier said than done, right?
Yeah,
because when you look at your child and you just feel, oh, it's those teenage years,
Yes.
She's locked herself in the room, or if you want to ask too many questions, there's a voice in your head saying, please don't be so capo, don't sound like, some mother who's sitting on that girl's back.
Yeah.
And then you don't know. So like you mentioned schools, that's a very good point, because currently I do believe in Singapore, there are schools who have taken this very seriously. And from a young age, a very young age, kids are being taught now to stand up to cyberbullying.
Yes. And also, I think that, I don't know about Singapore, and maybe someone can enlighten me about this, but in the US, I know that teachers are trained to watch out for bullying, and it is something that is brought up, because I think that is certainly something that's a very serious issue, that schools need to be the first line of defense there, because if it's happening in the school, it's happening online among schoolmates, then the school needs to be the first line of defense to stamp it out.
On that note, Gilbert, I think I'd like to say something about school bullying, but not now, later on, because we have someone in the waiting room for us.
Yes, sure.
Yes,
And this is someone who's been through a lot of pain. She's been there, right? And she's kind enough to be on our show today to share her experiences and how she's coping now. Okay, and let's bring her on. We have a founder, as I mentioned earlier, the introduction of the show, of the Please Stay movement, Jenny Teo, and we'd like to welcome her on the show now. Yes. Hi, Jenny.
Yes.
Hi, Jenny.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, welcome to the show. Welcome to In Our Humble Opinion. Thank you for being with us.
Pleasure to be here.
Nice.
Yeah.
First time, though.
Well, first time for everything. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on. And also being willing to share your experience. I know it's painful, but again, it's a difficult topic, even for any one of us to raise to you as our guest. Can we leave the mic open to you to begin?
Yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about your organization, why you started it, and what you hope all of us can do to help prevent suicide among youth, especially.
Okay. Well, I actually lost my son on June the 25th, 2018. So next month will be his second anniversary, we call it. Yeah. What was his name? I was going through my grief journey. And then at that time, I was approached by Caregivers Alliance. They basically support caregivers with loved ones with mental health conditions. So there was a request for from a video production company. And basically the owner of the company actually wanted to do it because of, 2 cases in his church. So, at first I didn't want to do it because, there's just so much suicide and mental illness. But then I went ahead and did it anyway. So that was when I shared my story. It was called The Silent Cry. So after I shared my story, I realized that it was actually, very therapeutic. And then subsequently, I got involved with Caregivers Alliance talk. They were giving talks to their members and mostly caregivers. So after that, after that talk, I really, got almost like, it was very, very therapeutic for me, for my grief journey. And then subsequently, then I met a group of mothers, and this was in 2019, early part of 2019, and there were like 10 of them, and most of them had actually lost their children in the year of 2018. And I thought, hey, this sounds like really there's a serious thing going on, because there's just so many young people, lost to suicide. So then, so I came up with, there was this idea about, doing a video featuring mothers. So I tried to get as many mothers as possible to come on. I want this video to be a wake-up call to society and to everybody. And because, most of the time when you watch, somebody sharing about these things, it's only an individual sharing. So, getting, a group of mothers to share, it really made a lot of impact, and it went viral. We were shocked that it went viral so quickly. And so that was when, we decided, okay, we came up with the name Please Stay. And then, the rest is history. And so we're basically an advocacy group. So we try and meet up with, NCSS, MOE, IMH, and, all the different government agencies to advocate for, improvement in anything to do with mental health treatment. And yeah, basically we wanted to share our lived experience, because it's really, having a lived experience, you learn a lot of things. Yeah, so I learned a lot, and so I'm very, into trying to use my lived experience together with my son. Feel that, for me to share his story, it's like both of us working as a team to try and help others. I was like them before. So, based on my experience, I wanted to help them. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. I think that, it takes so much strength to try and find purpose and meaning after such a horrible tragedy. And I think that the mission that you've embarked on, this new life journey, is so commendable, because you can save more lives. So can you tell us, maybe share with us, what are some of the things that all of us can do to help lessen and prevent suicide among young people? What are some of the key things, basically?
Well, I think the biggest setback, for those with mental health conditions is the stigma. Stigma actually means a mark of disgrace. So a lot of people who have mental health conditions, they carry around this stigma. It's like having this, stamp on your forehead that says, I'm a disgrace. So can you imagine that kind of like, 2/3 of people with mental health conditions actually don't seek professional help because of the stigma. Right. So that's just one thing, stigma. And, the stigma is really related to how we, when we talk about suicide, a lot of people right now still refer to suicide as commit suicide. And suicide was already decriminalized from January this year. So, to commit, to use the word commit, it connotes like an offense, a crime, but it's not anymore. So I think I've changed my language a lot. I no longer, use the word commit suicide. I use died by suicide. And I don't even use terms like complete suicide or it was successful. There's nothing to complete when it comes to suicide, nothing to feel successful about when it comes to suicide. So for me, I've changed my language. I use a fatal attempt or non-fatal attempt. So all these things, I feel that society, you know, for them to change their minds with regards to getting rid of the stigma, the language also has to change.
Yeah.
Which segment of society do you think would be, Jenny, would be more susceptible towards, you know, towards attempting suicide? People are depressed, as you mentioned. Yes, depression is a cause, but which segment are more susceptible? Is there such a thing?
Well, depression does not discriminate against race, language, or religion, whether you're rich or poor, whether you're famous or you're an outcast in society. It doesn't discriminate. It can happen to anybody. It happened to me. I was in depression for 2 years and I was suicidal too. Yeah. So it can happen to anybody. And, you know, I mean, life itself, it's, you know, full of life stresses, you know, and stress is actually one of the precursors to depression. And all of us go through stress, you know, and especially the young people nowadays, you know, I mean, if you look at the statistics for 2018, you know, there were almost like 400 suicides. And out of this, a quarter of them actually between 10 to 29 years of age. And suicide is currently the leading cause of death among our young people between 10 to 29. For every around 3 deaths, there is 2 suicides and 1 accident. So, you know, and this COVID-19 situation, you know, exacerbates the whole crisis itself. And our young people especially, because there's just so many changes, there's just so much uncertainty with regards to, you know, their job prospects, opportunities, and, you know, just life itself, and just being a human. You know, we are no longer you know, we are discouraged from being social beings, you know, but that's what we are. We are human. We are born with a social brain, but here we're doing everything that's opposite of what we're, you know.
Definitely, I think that it's been shown that the situation right now with COVID-19 has increased a lot of mental health conditions and made things worse for people with those conditions. You know, in sort of preparing for this show, I watched a TED talk given by a young lady who had attempted suicide and who had survived it. And she talked about her own experience. Obviously, everyone's experience is different. But some of the things that I gained from that, which I wanted to discuss here, get your thoughts about, is she said that very often the people who are thinking about it do not feel like they can talk about this because there is so much pressure in society to be well, you know, and to not show a weak side and to bring this up. And she says you can't really go and tell your family, for example, or even your friends that, hey, you know, I'm having these thoughts, I'm feeling really despairing. And this prevents people from looking for help. And she realized later on that if she had talked about it, that there were people who would help, there were people who cared. And when you put this into a Singapore context, an Asian context, my thought about this, and maybe you can address this, is that, you know, here we don't talk about our feelings very much in Asian societies. Certainly, you know, I lived in the US for 20 years. I know the American experience is they talk a lot more about their feelings than we do here in Singapore and Asian societies. So do you feel that this inability in society to talk about feelings and to talk about, I'm feeling bad, and if you approach, for example, I mean, I'm just thinking, if you approach a parent to say that, you know, I'm thinking this way, I'm thinking about, I'm having suicidal thoughts, the general reaction will be, what, you crazy? You know, don't talk about this, you know, you siao, you know, and they want to shut it up rather than to say, why are you feeling this way? You know, tell me what's bothering you, you know, I'm here for you, you know. So maybe you could address that, and you feel that within the Asian context, we need to perhaps be more open and accepting about weaknesses and to hear people out more?
I think this has got to do with the point I mentioned earlier about stigma. You know, basically because of Asian society, you know, suicide has got such a, you know, deep-rooted stigma, especially in Asian society. It's sort of like an embarrassment if you, you know, tell friends, oh, my daughter or my son has got depression, seeing a psychiatrist, and, you know.
Then,
yeah.
Jenny, sorry, can I jump in, because you mentioned this. We are looking at this currently from the eyes of the parents. Yes, there is stigma. What Gilbert said correctly, if the child is afraid to come and talk to the parents because of the stigma. So I want to just ask the perspective in a different way. As a mother, you have a child, a young child who is going through this fear. The fear of not wanting to reach out, the fear of not being able to bring those words to your mouth, even if you want to. I mean, whether it's known as, you know, selective mutism, where even though it is lying on your chest, you are just too scared to talk to your loved ones. In that case, if that is the situation and you are a parent, not a parent who is going to worry about stigma, but a more supportive parent, a parent who understands the child. But this disconnect, do you as a parent, could you see anything, the telltale signs? What after the suicide, what do you ask yourself? What was missing? What didn't you see? What could you have done? I know it's painful, but would you like to share that with us?
Yeah, I can share some. You know, depression is a very insidious condition. It can creep up on someone. And, you know, a lot of the times, I can tell you, a lot of our young people, especially, they're going through depression, they are experiencing the symptoms and all that, but they don't understand what they're going through. And, you know, they themselves are finding answers themselves. And they are confused. They don't know what's happening to them. And most of the time, I can tell you that they're afraid to tell their parents is because of the response they get. Most of the time, they don't get a very good response. As, you know, what was mentioned earlier, you know, the parents do not validate their emotions. They can't say, you know, I'm feeling really bad, you know, they can't even say I'm feeling suicidal, you know, I want to end it all, which is a very, very common thing to feel when one is in depression. But because of the fact that it's such a taboo subject, and people, when they hear about, you know, suicidal thoughts, or even for that matter, depression, they just don't know how to deal with it. I tell you, a lot of parents don't know how to deal with it, and it doesn't help that kids themselves. I mean, my son was going through depression for 2 years, and I didn't even know, because he, you know, he was generally an introvert, so he didn't say, you know, he didn't say very much. So, you know, as parents, you tend to assume, oh, he's had a bad day, oh, he's in one of his moods, you know, and we don't think beyond that. But actually, they could be harboring a lot of emotions inside, which they cannot express. And then when they find they cannot express to their parents because they're afraid, then they try and express to their friends. But then again, there are friends, a lot of them, who don't understand, and they say, snap out of it. Or, you know, or even parents, they snap out of it. Oh, it's a growing up phase, you know. All these things that's said to them, you know, makes them feel, hey, you know, I'm not going to say anymore. I'm not going to express anymore. I stop here.
So if this is the case, Jenny, do you think, I mean, are there warning signs for people to really, you know, spot, you know, in their family members or friends, you know, so that we can help?
The telltale signs.
Any telltale signs?
Do
you think, is it at all possible for that to even exist?
Well, as someone who's gone through depression, I can tell you the telltale signs. You know, you feel, you know, like life has no meaning. And you feel you don't matter at all. You feel that you're better, that your family members are better off without you. And you just have no purpose in life.
Yep.
You just feel, it just, you don't see anything beyond the horizon at all. It's just, there's no light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, but outside looking in, from a third party, outside looking in, a person feels that way, and more often than not, they won't talk about it, How would someone like any one of us, will be able
parent.
to, yeah, a parent. I have a kid, yeah, he's 11 years old. How would one be able to see it, Could it also be that even if there's a very close relationship between parent and child, that it could also, the child might not even want to talk about it? Is there any way that we can spot it and maybe we can do something about it in time?
Okay. I think, if you talk about depression among our young people, there's the group where it's, they're below 12. And then above 12, all right, and they're like pre-adolescent, 15, 16. And then after that, beyond that, I think this is the growing up phase of children from 0 to, 25. And they go through different phases. And like, for example, a child below 12, is always, they cling on to their parents. Beyond 12, they start to, want to have their own friends. They want to, have a little bit of independence and all that. That's the growing up phase, for our children. But sometimes as parents, we tend to disregard that. Like, for example, for my son, when after 12, when he started having friends, and it's like, you say, hey, you don't want to be with mom anymore. You don't want to go out with mom anymore. And I find that, personally, in my humble opinion, I wish that, these things were taught in school. But, all these things, they don't teach you in school.
Yeah.
You learn through the university of life. But sometimes it can, by the time you learn and by the time you notice it, it can be a bit too late. So, ever since I lost my son, I have done a lot of research, and I've done a lot of, taking stock of everything that has happened. You ask yourself questions, why did it happen? Could I have, prevented it, that sort of thing, so I have learned that, as parents, and for myself, I was so into making sure that my son gets his grades in school, he goes for his tuition, the academic pressure, because my son was not academically inclined. So a lot of effort went into, into making sure that he gets his grades, he gets to a good school and all that. And in the process of it, one can actually, relegate, the teaching of values and, everything that has got to do with the university of life somehow is, doesn't take center stage. But this is the foundation. This is the foundation for building resilience, actually. When you have communication with parents, right? And parents understand, so you know that you have a safe place to go to whenever you're feeling the pressure from society, from academic pressure, from your peers. So, so this is really something that I feel can parents, it would help a lot if parents understand the growing up process, how the brain develops in the child, and how the changes take place, so that, in their parenting, they can adjust.
One takeaway that you just mentioned for me, which is very, very special for me, is when you said creating a safe place.
Yes.
And that, to me, that struck me the most, really. I mean, not that I didn't hear anything else you said, but that struck me the most. I cannot agree more. Yeah. Thank you so much, Jenny, for that.
Jenny, just one. Can I just ask you something? what did you feel then aftermath? What did you feel was one of the main reasons or causes for what happened to your son?
Well, in my son's case, I think one thing I've learned is that for boys, mothers play a very major role as they are growing up, but when they reach a certain stage, like, they're in their teens, they tend to look towards their father. So because my only child was a boy, and because it was an absent father situation. So, there was no role model. There was no father figure. And I think boys need that. Somehow or other, when they reach a certain age, they need something from their father which the mother cannot give. As a mom, I cannot be a father. As a father, the father cannot be a mother. We all have our different roles. And our roles take place and come into play as they are growing up in the different stages of life. But the thing is that, do we realize it or not? So I think it's understanding the process of the brain development of the child and how the mind is, developing as they are growing up, and their needs, their emotional needs, they have many needs, security. So to answer your question, there was this point where, my son literally died of a broken heart. He had a girlfriend, and she broke his heart twice. And, some of the things that she said to him was really very
painful.
Yes, yeah. So it just, he couldn't take it. He couldn't take the pain. So he literally died of a broken heart.
But then, Jenny, I'm sorry to sound as though I'm probing, but this was one of the causes, the ultimate, the last cause, the girlfriend, the messages, maybe that anger and frustration with the relationship being broken. Having said that, after the suicide, when you were trying to grapple with the situation, how did you come upon this conclusion that it could have been the absence of a father which actually accentuated this whole situation? I mean, how did you come to that conclusion?
Well, because I think for the boy, having a good relationship with the father is very important. But if that is lacking, as I mentioned, there's no, you don't feel safe, you don't feel secure with your own parents or your own father. And like I said, there is the need there for a boy growing up, the need for a father figure.
Completely agree.
Jenny, did your son voice this about the lack of the father figure to you before, and that was an issue for him?
Yes, he my son at the age of 2, already had an absent father for 16 years. Yeah, and I think I mean, a lot of fathers who are absent, when they finally get a chance to, bond with their children again, right, after, years and years of maybe being away and all that, somehow or other, I feel one doesn't realize that when you come to a particular stage of the child's life, sometimes it can be a bit too late in establishing that bond and that relationship, because it has to be from day one.
During the formation years,
as
especially.
the child is growing up, it develops over time.
May we ask, Jenny, how old was he?
He was about 4 months short of his 21st birthday. Yeah.
Young adult.
Yeah. I'm very, very concerned that our more and more young people are actually, taking this route. Yeah.
You know, Jenny, one of the things that you said about, you know, the parent maybe not being able to ask the child or have a conversation with the child, and Daisy brought this up as well. Do you feel then that it's important if a parent who's listening now says that, okay, I can't talk to my child, but I'm concerned about them, that maybe they can reach out to one of the child's friends who they know, and to say that, you know, can you find out what's happening? Has he said anything to you? Because from what I've read is that a lot of times people will signal that they are thinking about this before they actually do it, you know, and they might say things indirectly, like, you know, or, you know, the world will be better without me, or I wish I can fall asleep and never wake up again, you know, those kinds of things. And that these then need to be signs that we all look out for among friends, among children, you know. What are your thoughts about that? If the parent cannot be the one to actually talk to the child, maybe to reach out to a friend perhaps?
Well, that's the thing about friends, because, you know, from my own experience and my son's, when he was having those suicidal thoughts, he actually told his friends, and he told it knowing that, hey, they're not going to tell me. So, you know, but one of them did. But then when my son found out, my son literally disconnected his friendship with the boy. Yeah. So so dealing with suicide and, you know, kids with suicidal thoughts, it's not an easy thing. It's not like, you know, A equals, you know, that kind of thing. It's really, every case is different.
It's not so straightforward.
If I may jump in, I mean, just for younger children, I mean, I have friends who are, you know, one of them is a teacher, a very close friend of mine, and when we were discussing this subject again about how can parents notice, what do they do, because as mothers, you know, that's when you tear your hair. What I couldn't see it, where did I go wrong? And that part takes even longer to heal, like you will know, Jenny. But she did bring up, and she said, we have had parents who actually come and talk to the teachers. I'm talking in you know, slightly younger, where you have classes, and most schools today do have counselors. So if you can go to at least talk to a teacher and say, have you been noticing some kind of different behavior? And if so, is because they spend so much time in school as well. I mean, just as much as they do with friends. But maybe a parent reaching out to a teacher to find out, or maybe having a more closer relationship with the teacher instead of just believing the teacher will take care of it, you know. Maybe that's another way one could go to just be a bit more sensitive to what is happening around the child.
Well, personally, I think it is the parent's responsibility, because your kid spends the most time with you. Right? I mean, yes, the teacher's there, but the teachers has got, like, you know, the other students. There's just so many students to take care of.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So, and I think you know, as a parent, one should take the you know, the responsibility.
And it's a saying, the first teachers are the parents. You can't just leave it to the system. It's got to come from the home, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
But
so,
the problem is, you know, is understanding. I think that's why, you know, for me, what I really want to do right now is to go into public education, right? To reach out to parents, because I think parents need a lot of help in trying to understand depression and also suicidal thoughts.
yes.
Because one of the talks I did for NUS students, where I said, you know, putting on the lens of a suicidal person, what does it feel like to be, you know, to feel suicidal? You know, does anyone even know how that feels? Right? Because if you don't know how that person feels, how are you going to help that person? How are you going to help your child if you don't understand what it feels like to be suicidal? Or how does it feel like to be in depression? right? So the education part has to be there, where the parent has to take time to educate themselves, to equip themselves, to empower themselves, all right, with the skills, the knowledge, and everything in order to be able to help their child.
Yeah.
But then again, isn't there a root cause for, you said earlier, stress? You know, the stress that happens in perhaps, especially in school, right? You know, parents are also stressed out for their kids to actually attain the grades that they hope the kids to attain. You know, I mean, personally speaking, I always tell my boy, you know, just don't be afraid of hard work. Yeah, go out there and give it your all. You know, challenge life, challenge the things you have to get provided you want to have it. Yeah, but then again, then you have meet parent sessions, then then you have the grades being told to you, and then you go. Parents get stressed out, but we also, people like me especially, realize that I don't want my kid to be in a predicament where he's, you know, going to have thoughts that's not going to be desirable in his head, and emotionally gets, you know, burdened, right? And I know that, you know, and but then again, we also are susceptible parents to the pressures that the system brings to us, you know. I think it is more important as well for the powers that be to recognize that this is a major issue, and could there be a root cause to it, and could anything be done? You know, rather than, oh yeah, I said it earlier, we can't just leave it to the schools, and I meant literally the schools, but I'm saying the way things are being run, right, where all of us have to get our kids to try to get here, try to get there. You know, how about the other families who don't even consider depression in their children, but they just see the kids, they got to academically do really, really well, get your grades. You know, what's going to happen then? Because this whole thing is just not going to improve.
I agree with you totally. You know, I think the mindset has changed, because I've come across many parents, right? And I hear stories like, oh, you know, this bunch of kids, because they have depression and all that, they can't work, even though they've gone through tertiary, you know, education. I've heard stories where, you know, they have to, you know, certain kids have to, they literally cannot go through the educations. They have to, you know, in university, you have to, you know, there's, I think, 6 semesters only you have that you can, yeah. What I'm trying to say is that at the end of the day, if one has got depression, for example, you can't study anyway. So where's the priority? The priority has to be in the mental health of the person, because without it, there's nothing, you know, you can literally, I mean, I've gone through it, right? For 2 years, I literally just didn't, I don't even know how to explain it, but I just felt I didn't want to do anything. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't focus. I couldn't, it's really very, very counterproductive, really. So my question is, where the priority has to lie in the mental health of the person, but that doesn't seem to be happening.
Yeah. So basically the key is to ensure the mental health first before anything else can happen. But then the question would be that, does pressure in society to do well in schools cause more people to think about suicide? You know,
that's what I was trying to drive at.
Gilbert, but Gilbert, I mean, basically, what Chris said, what Gilbert is saying, what Jenny is saying, is all true. There is stress. Now, stress is not going to just go away.
Yes.
I mean, that is factual, that is pragmatic, it is here to stay. And I do actually understand, and it's about changing the mindset. So when we're looking at a mental problem, or we are looking at depression, that is totally different from changing the mindset of us parents to begin with, let us say. To be able to understand that it's okay if you don't get an A+ for everything. That is the first step that the parent takes.
Yes.
Has stress management ever been introduced? Has stress management ever been introduced in schools?
But you see, what happens is, let me share with you. I remember when there was a whole debate about the second language, and there was a situation where the Ministry of Education was willing to make the second language, I think, a bit more easier, or I'm not exactly sure of what happened, but I do remember reading letters about parents who were concerned that it will become too easy. So there are parents who are concerned about the academic level going down and things becoming too simple. There are parents who are dealing with, can we just stop and make this more acceptable for the child and for the parent? So yes, we all are creating stress for each other. Every stakeholder has to do something about it. So once the realization is there that yes, there is stress, and this is the cause of people, youth, losing
I understand. I mean, I encounter crazy parents.
Everybody has to be responsible.
I think the key basically is also teaching children how to deal with it, deal with stress, because, you know, let's say they don't face stress in school. You protect them in school, you lower the standards, you make it less difficult, and then they go into the working world. There's going to be stress.
That's why I'm saying. That's why I'm saying. Maybe there should be, there should be a great deal of stress on stress management in our school system, for example. Let's start from there. You know, where
I think that
told that don't worry about your grades so much. Just put your backs into it. You know, and if you're feeling stressed, right, come and see us. You know, talk to us. You know, and tell them how they can manage. Teach them how to manage it.
And the parents too, Chris, because you see, let's say a teacher is pressurizing you. You come home with a report card, and the father looks at the report card and says, "Oh, is this all you managed?" Without even realizing it, you are passing that stress on to your child as well. I think overall, go ahead.
If I may share, I think the other source of stress, which does not involve parents, are the kids themselves. I tell you, I'm very surprised that a lot of times the parents that I meet, they tell me, oh, you know, I tell my kids, just do your best, all right? We still love you and all that. But they compare themselves with their peers.
Their peers, yes.
Yes. And and that is something that we, you know, I think it is the way culture is, the way, you know, current, you know, modern culture is, the society, and how, you know, the peers themselves see themselves, they compare with, you know, among themselves. And I think that's not healthy either. So that part also, you know, I feel has to be recognized, and somehow, you know, things have to change in that area as well.
Jenny, you have your work cut out for you. So many levels.
Yes, it's a wide spectrum.
I mean, because
but you know, I think Daisy and Gilbert and myself, I mean, we can easily just tell you that we're very happy to have had you on this, you know, on our show. Correct. So that at least our viewers and listeners, you know, they'll be able to hear the sharing from you is intimate enough, you know, and we need to put this message out there as well. As a matter of fact, we're dedicating the show today towards this topic. And really, thank you so very much, Jenny, for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, and all the best for your important mission and you know, saving lives and opening minds.
Yes, saving lives. Yes.
And you do know our producer is looking into the show as well, right? You can see him, though the viewers will not be able to see him, but he's here, right? I can't even say in spirit, but he is really here. So you know, anytime you want to come on the show again, we will welcome you with open arms.
Jenny,
we'll be glad to. Yes.
I just want you to, when you are on your mission, every person you meet, you tell them you are responsible yourself. So each person takes their responsibility very seriously. I think we're just going to have a better world to live.
I admire your strength. I admire your courage. And still reaching out to people. Really, it's marvelous. Really,
my son and I are a team.
Yes, that's for sure. That's for sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Many blessings.
Jenny. Thank you. Okay, so, you know, thank you very much, Jenny, for sharing with us. I think that was very enlightening and very sobering. And my takeaway from that basically is it's very important for us all to realize that there are things that we ourselves can do to help prevent and to help those who have suicidal thoughts. And it's very important, I think, for us to recognize the struggle when people are talking to us about having these kinds of thoughts and not dismiss it, whether we're a parent or whether we're a friend and someone brings this up, is to encourage them to keep talking and to really take their concerns and their pain seriously and to try and get help for them. I think that when someone feels that they are at the end of their rope and they know that there's one person who cares, that can make a really big difference. So I would leave you all with this thought, is that we all can play a part in helping those who are depressed. We can all play a part in helping those who are feeling suicidal, and that we just need to watch out for this and be more sensitive to this and not to dismiss it. Because very often, I think in our society, we have this tendency to tell people who are feeling bad, oh, you'll get over it, or, don't talk that way, don't think that way. And, it may not be that easy for them to just dismiss it. And they could be very serious about it. And taking their pain seriously is the first step. And I think that we all can do that. So definitely that's what I would leave us all with.
Thank you. Thank you, Gilbert. I'd just like to say, coming back to the situation that we are in right now, in this COVID-19 situation, it's very challenging times. And we keep repeating and telling each other, there is this silent, invisible enemy. There is this virus which we cannot see, which the world is coming together to try to fight. And at the same time, you're thinking about this silent pain, which so many youth, so many people carry around within them. And just like COVID kills, this silent enemy which is within you, if not treated, if you don't talk about it, if you don't take help, just like you would take help if you were if you had an infection with the virus, it can kill. And so, just to sum up what I'd really like to say, in the words of Megan Kelly Hall, who is an author, that school administrators can't say it's up to the parents. Parents can't say it's up to the teachers. Teachers can't say it's not their jobs. And kids can't say, I was too afraid to tell. Every single one of us has to play our role if we are serious about putting an end to this madness. Thank you.
Jenny's son didn't have much of a father with him for a very long time. As a matter of fact, I don't even think he even had experience of having a dad around. And as it is, when I listen to that, and I remember that when I lost my dad, I was 18. And it was difficult, even then, at a much older age, 18 years old. I mean, I wasn't that young. But even throughout my 20s as a young working adult, I've always wished I had my dad. Dads are important to children, regardless of whether you're a boy or a girl, son or daughter. But we boys, we always need to have that man around. So to all the dads out there, dads like me, Father's Day is around the corner. You got to know, you, sir, you are very important to your family. It's not always about the wives and the mothers, Dads are special. Creating a safe place. Parents, realize you are that safe place. It is not a physical space. You are that safe place. You are that place that your kids will always trust. So, aside from grades and everything else, it's about you, So please listen, parents. Let's not go all ape crazy over more and more grades. It's about how much heart you can build in your child or your children. And lastly, to all the bullies out there, don't do to others what you don't want to have happen to you. People have taken their lives. Don't be responsible for that. I hate bullies. And on that note, thank you for watching this latest episode of In Our Humble Opinion. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe us on our social feeds. Not just that, make sure that you also follow us, our audio podcast, anywhere that you can find good audio podcasts. So everyone, we'll see you again real soon. Till then, stay safe.